Hey, this is Brian. We're going to build a new perspective setup here. I'm going to go a little bit backwards just so we make sure that we understand what's going on and everything is going to fit properly. So what I did is I started this out. Let's get a color here. This is going to be the horizon line. And I made this about 3 inches down from the top, and I'm just approximating, but last time we did this it was too close up to the top. And this is about 3 inches here to the ground line. And then what I'm doing is I'm starting down here with my station point, which is about 1 inch off the bottom of the edge of the paper. And I start out here with the, this is 30 degrees on this side. So I'm going to try to build this just with our 30-60 triangle just to make it easier. So this is the 60 degree side of your triangle. So that would be like your triangle is sitting this way. And whoops, and then this way is the opposite. Now we're going to flip that, and I'm going to use my tool here to do, so we're going to do 30-60 both ways. So this one, I'm going to get to 30 degrees, and I'm just going to do this one in a different color so we can tell which one is which. This is 60 degrees in this side. So this may sound a little confusing, but if you look at the orange one, that's a 90-degree angle. So now the reason I did this first without drawing my picture plane is because I wanted to see where the picture plane and then these diagonal lines would meet up without running off the edge of the paper. So let's, I haven't used this program in a while, so I'm a little rusty here. Make that a little bit bigger. Okay, so I could see that these lines are going to go off the edge of the paper. So somewhere about right here, I'll actually get both 60 degrees on both sides. And these are important points, so we don't want them to be off the edge of our paper. And then I'm going to draw my center line as well, all the way through here. So this is, I'm going to do this way down here because it's going to get in the way. CL. Alright, so I got the basics set up now, and let's transfer some of these lines up here. So my orange will go all the way up to the horizon line. So this is going to be my VP, and I'm just going to leave them in orange. You can denote which ones these are. I'm going to do this a little bit lighter so that, okay, so VP orange, and then we'll do the gray one. Ooh, jumped over there. So there's VP gray. And if you guys want to do this in color pencil, I'm fine with that, but just keep aware that the color pencils don't have all the variety of hardnesses that your pencil does. So you're not going to get that super hard fine line. So just be really careful about keeping them sharp and drawing lightly so you don't kind of overwhelm the whole drawing with lots of lead. All right, so here's our basic setup. Now I got to draw my boxes in here, so let's start. Oh, let me identify this first here. This is our picture plane. We'll do picture plane in purple. And the picture plane, we're going to do some of the boxes in front and some behind. And remember, the picture plane is really the top view of this ground line up here. So we have to pay attention to what's in front and what's in back, and that's what we cool. All right, so I'm going to do a new layer somewhere in here. Where is it? Brushes, tools. There we go, layers. All right, so here's my basic setup. And once again, let me just explain how we got here. All right, so we started out with, go wrong tool, 3 inches from the top we drew our horizon line. About 3 inches below that we drew our ground line. And then about 1 inch up from the bottom of the page we drew our station point. I just drew this red line, just, you don't need that, but just so I could measure my degrees off of there. And then we drew, and to make this a little quicker, you could just draw 30 degrees on this side and 30 degrees on this side, and then find a line that will be our picture plane that meets both of those so we don't run off the edge of the paper. And then, because these are effectively 30 degrees on both sides, and these are 30 degrees, we've actually just drawn our cone of vision in here. So let me draw that in, and I'm going to draw that with a big circle starting right in the center line and going out to those 2 vanishing points. So I'm just lining this all up so it'll be a little easier. Now you can see my cone of vision is pretty small compared to this whole page, so most of all my drawing is going to be focused around in this area here. And so we got to pay attention to where we're laying out our boxes, because they're going to be, they got to pretty much be in between these 2 lines now, because that's representing our cone of vision. So let's put in some boxes, and I'll do these on a new one too. I'm going to turn this one down so the cone of vision is barely there. All right, so I got this little handy box tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this box, I was suggesting maybe 2 inches, so we've got a 3-inch distance between our ground line and our horizon line. So if we make a box that's 2 inches tall, I'm just drawing it up there for the moment. I'm going to move it somehow. Forget how you do that. Is it this? No, that's... I'm going to move it down into my scene. So we saw that last time, and I'm going to try to line this up so it's the 30-60. So just draw this with your 30-60. So this one, if you see down here in the gray, it will line up for this the gray vanishing points. And so I'm going to do this one in front, about here. So this one is going to be a little off center, so it's not, maybe I'll be way off center. It's not blocking too much. And then let's copy that. I think I can do this. Copy. Paste. Yes. And if you remember last time we talked about it, like the cylinders and the spheres don't really matter what orientation the box is in, is because we're gonna draw it within the box. So just to make things easier, I'm going to keep this also at 30-60, and also to make things easier, I'm going to touch the picture plane with the front edge, so I don't have to use the measuring point. I can measure off of that exact point. So I got 2 boxes in there, and then let's do, and those are the same size. Let's do now our bigger box that's behind all of these. And now because it's bigger, we can push it back in perspective, and it'll shrink in our perspective view. But the other thing is I want to turn this one now so that it's I don't need to turn it that much, so that it's the opposite vanishing point, sorry, the other 30-60. So I got to line this up with here just to make sure it is 30-60, and I'll kind of denote the colors in a minute. So that one works for these 2 vanishing points. So let's put this one kind of in between the 2, a little further back. So it should stick up above those. If I look at my line of sight, maybe I want to see the front corner. That blue line is my line of sight, And so I can see that I'll be able to see through these two boxes and see the corner of this, so maybe this is a good place to put that. And last time we put an object on top of another object, and so I want to do the same thing. Let's go back to our first object here, and we'll do kind of like we did in class. Copy that, paste it, and we'll move this one along. So this will be the sphere, maybe again, or it could be the cone. And we'll keep that also touching, just to make things easier. We're just kind of cheating a little bit. So we want a little bit of overlap so that it's not perfectly lined up. Oh, and then we also have the cylinder that's lying on its side. So that one, we're going to make a more oblong box. So let's start, oops, not that one, this one here. And I kind of liked how I had that going in between some of these boxes, so maybe I will do that here. So this is in a new layer, so I can and I'm going to rotate that so that it is more in line with the back box. So it's going to be in the same orientation as this one. And sorry, I'm just trying to picture what's going to happen. I'm trying to think in 3D, but I want, again, I'm standing here looking at this, so I'll see the front end of that. That's good. The back end's going to be covered. It depends on what these objects are. If something's stacked, I pretty much need the box to put something on top of. So this purple one down here, sorry, these are in the gray orientation. So this is going to be a box. And then I can put anything on top of it. But this will be a cylinder here. This one and this one, I'll see what happens while we're building out the scene. Okay, so I think we got mostly everything's all set up. So again, this distance here, let me just rephrase, is really just a result of what fit within my 3060 situation. And these distances from the top were measured out so that we have enough space to kind of lay everything out in the middle. So this is also just a random space that's left over. And again, this whole chunk here is really the top view of our scene. And then over here, now this grouping is going to be the 3D view of our scene. So we've got it all set up, and now we got to start projecting. And like I said, I kind of cheated and just used two different vanishing point situations just to make things easier. And let's go to our station point, and what do we start with? Let's start with one in the back because it's going to get covered up. It'll be easier. So the big point we need to remember here is that I'm going to turn this off. Remember this picture plane. What's in front? These two guys are in front. These two guys are behind. And then this one crosses over it. So we just have to really remember that when we're dealing with the ground line up here. So the things are in front will be in front of that, and the things in back will be in back of that. And that's where most people get mixed up, is that just dealing with this ground line where we start with that. So we're going to first start with this big box. So we need to get our measuring point. And so let's move, let's use this side. So again, we can use any one of those sides. I'm going to do this side here just to get way out of the path of everything else. Do that lighter. So I'm just coming down here right there. And I'm going to bring that up to here. And then this box here is in the orange orientation. So I got to go to these vanishing points. So I'm going to draw a line off to this vanishing point, and that box is behind. That's a little too thick. Let's turn that down. This big box is behind my picture plane, so I'm going back in space to find this. Now, I found the basic beginning. I've got the measurement here, so whatever this is, wrong tool. The distance, this is pretty light, hard to see green here. Let's darken green up. That length X, I gotta transfer up here. And so for you guys, you can just measure it. The easiest way for me is to use this circle tool, because I don't have to do the orientation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on a corner and stretch it somehow. I think it's this one. Yeah, there you go. Out. So this gives me a circle distance that should be the same here. And so that's the height of this. So I'm going to draw another line out to this point here. That's a little darker now. And now you need to start finding the starting point, so I'm going off of this line right here. So that runs along the front face of this. So I need to find these 2 points that represent those 2 corners. So let's draw those lines back to our vanishing point. And I'm going to do this dark, and then it's on its own layer, so I'll lighten all this up. So I'm going to go back to our station point, and don't forget the back one. And then I'll transfer all this to the picture plane. So let's go a little bit lighter now. So now I'm going to go down to my picture plane. I'm sorry, I'm doing this. I transferred this down to my picture plane. I got to transfer this up to my scene. And so let's again look at this. I want this front piece, it goes to the far corner of this box. So now I'm going to transfer this up to my edge here. And that's the beginning. And then the back corner is this one. And so I'm going to transfer that one up here. And so now I have my first face. I got the front face, this one here. And now I can start to build this by going off. This is using my orange vanishing points, if you remember. So I'm going to go to orange vanishing point, and now I need the side here. So I'm going to go from there up, and there it is. And now this is a little squishy on the top because I'm really close to the horizon line, but that's okay. So I'm going to zoom in here a little bit just so I can see better, and I'm going to turn my scale down a little bit here. So I'm going to go to that vanishing point. Okay, across one, and then across back. And where those meet up, I should be able to go straight up and repeat for the top, cross vanishing point to vanishing point. And like I said, it's a little bit messy up here. All right, so I got that first box. Now I'm going to turn this opacity way down, and I'm just going to redraw the box because all those lines are going to start getting in the way. And let's draw this. Well, we'll keep it in green, but all right, so now I'm just going to draw the box portion of this. And I'm trying to follow my underlay lines. That's the front half, and now we'll thin this way down. We'll do the back half. And sometimes just doing the lighter line will help you see it in 3D better, because every once in a while they get inverted. All right, so that was the hardest one because we needed the measuring point. So we go back to here, new. Let's recap real quick what we just did. So we took this back circle. I'm just going to mark this up for a second. This back square, which was aligned with these vanishing points, the orange ones. And we first we made a measuring line over here. That's pretty clean, right? To that point. And then we traced that up to here. I'm going to do this in straight lines. And then we measured the distance, the height of this side x. We made that x tall. And then we looked down here and we said, all right, the picture plane is here. And so we're behind the picture plane. And so that this has to be behind the picture plane. So I start from here, and this is going to go back to that vanishing point. So I went back here. And then the height, we went back also. And then I started transferring everything up by pulling all these lines through the station point, down to the picture plane, and back up. And we should do this in order always. So all we have right now is this front face, so we should figure out the front face first, which is these two corners here. So we went down to the picture plane and then back up, and I'm a little bit off, but that gave us the first corner, down to the picture plane and back up, and that gave us that corner. And so we started building our box, going back off. And remember, just to keep track of your vanishing points, it's really easy. I almost went to this one. Which would not be correct. So I'm going to delete this little markup layer. We'll do a new layer for our next box. And I'm going to end it. I'm just going to do the next box, and then instead of mapping all the boxes out, I'm going to let you guys go with it, because it's going to get really tedious. So this one's in the way back, and let's see. Let's make this into the cone just for now. So if you remember, we're going to map out, because this is a bigger box. I'm getting a little bit pixelated here, so this is going to get fuzzy. That's too big. What we're going to do is map out the bottom of the box here, find the center points. And then we're going to go off to the vanishing points to find the center both directions. And then, like I said, this is too fuzzy, so I'm going to just map this in. But remember, you're going to kind of divide this up into thirds. Let's do this on the front side here. Thirds. And bring those off into space. And then divide this up into thirds. And you got to go all the way around the box, but we're just doing this front corner. And then we're going to mark up in a different color these spots. So we're touching in those two corners, and then we're a little bit in, and then a little bit outside that intersection, and a little bit in. And so this first corner we're going to map out. Lordy, this is so pixelated. And then I'm going to, just for the sake of making this go quicker, map in the rest of this. But you guys will do this a little bit better. And then we're going to find the center line up here, and the center of the box up here is going to be a little bit squished up here, and this is kind of why I'm doing the cone, because all we need is the point. then when we got to the point, we went tangent down to this circle, tangent down to that circle, and so we got our cone in there. All right, let me see if I can speed this up a little bit. Let's draw the box in front. I'll draw one box in front, and then I'll draw the cylinder, which is in between the two. So these boxes in front, let's start with this this lower one here, and let's do this in a blue color. Okay, so oops, I just said the other one. This one. Come on, shift. Okay, so this is in front of the picture plane, so everything's got to come forward. So I got to remember I'm drawing the back of the box first. So I got to draw the box kind of inside out, if you will. And I'm a little bit off there from the corner. This is why precision is important. Okay, and then I'm going to do that trick again where I measure the any one side, because this is square, they're all the same. Using my compass, but you can just measure, put that up there. That's how high it is. That's the beginning of my box. Now I got to remember, first of all, I got to check, this is the gray vanishing points, and I got to go from the gray through there forward. So I'm going to go forward through that because it's the back corner of the box, forward through the bottom that way, and then forward through the top, and also through this top. Now I need to find the length of any of the sides. So now I got to go station point through the object to the picture plane. Everything goes through the picture plane, then gets transferred up. So there's up to the picture plane, up to the picture plane, and we already got the first corner. So let's transfer these up, up. And again, this is really easy to start thinking that this is what we need, but it is not. This is what we need this way, because we're drawing the box inside out. So in fact, I'm going to lightly erase the rest of it just so we don't get confused. We shrink this down a little bit so don't get confused by that. All right, so now we got these, it's like we took the front of the box off, we just got this back corner wall, and now we got to draw those other, so we got the sides, so I should be able to come through here about, and through there, and through this top corner right there. Did I just do what I said not to do? I went to the wrong vanishing point. Through here, and it looks like I didn't quite make that line long enough, and through this corner here, and then I need my front edge, which is this one, which I have not transferred up yet, and I was looking at my lines going, these are not mating up, but again I was kind of looking inside out. Now this happens sometimes. I'm looking at this this area here, and all these don't line up, and they should, so I'm off a little bit somewhere. So I'll go back and just double check and see what most likely is the direction. Those don't look too bad. But I need to resolve this so that it actually works, and I think part of the problem is back there. So here's where I might adjust things a little bit. So all three of these are not meeting up. So maybe I'll pull this line up a little bit. And I'm going to do this now in a darker blue just so we can tell which is which. I'll pull that up just ever so slightly. I'll pull this one down slightly because I want them to meet up in the center, and I'm going to push this one over slightly, and hopefully that will help as I rotate around this object. I could see some of my lines weren't quite lined up. So if I pull this up, I've got to bring that back up a little bit. Just forward to there, and this should go back to there. Okay, so now let's turn this layer opacity way down. And I'll just map out that box again so we can just see the good stuff. It's just, well, I was doing it in blue. Let's stay blue, but we'll do brighter blue. And now I'm just tracing out my lines. 1, 2, so this is the front side of the box. And I think we said this one will stay a box because it is going to hold up something else. Okay, so here's where I'm covering up part of my cone, and when you're mapping this stuff out, a lot of times you just can't quite figure out exactly what's going to happen. Sometimes things work out fine, and other times you go, oh my god, I'm completely covering up something, so you got to go back and move something in your perspective view. That's a little bit way off there. So again, this blue box is actually this box. And the green one we did is actually this box. All right, so like I said, that first one's gonna, the blue one's gonna stay a box. Let's go back and do this one cylinder on its side, because that's the trickier one. So it's on a transparent layer, so I'm just gonna beef this back up. Let's skinny this up a little bit. So this is the one where we're going through the picture plane, so we just got to pay attention. Half of it's going to come forward and half of it's going to go backwards to the picture plane. So let's start with those. I'll do these in yellow. All right, so I'm going to go through, everything goes to the picture plane, so that's got to go up. Up, zoom in. And then down from here, and down from here. And we're also going to need a measuring line because we don't know how tall this thing is. So we're going to have to choose which direction. So I could do a measure line this way, which might be good. Could also do this one this way. So either one should get us the same results. So because the last one we did was behind, I'm going to do the one behind just so it looks similar. So I'm going to do this, oops, this one. So first step is to transfer this measuring line up to the picture plane. And then I need to find the height again. And since this is a cylinder on its side, the front face has got to be square. We're doing a kind of the long side of it. So that's about the right height. So we're going to go over here. Mark that off. Close this down. And which direction is this? Is to the orange vanishing points again. So now here's my height. So, beep. So I'm going to go off to my orange vanishing points this direction, because this half is behind and then the other half is forward. So now we got to find our first corner. So we're using this side as our starting point. So sometimes it's easy just to think we're just doing this, forget about everything else. So we've got those 2 points down here, right there. And this one goes up. What the heck is going on here? Shift. There we go. So I got these, this square right here is the first piece of our cylinder. Okay, now let's forget about everything else and we'll do the, well actually no, let's project forward. We could just map out the second square just with the same method, but I think once we've got that, we can start building this out. So we got to build from there forward again to the orange vanishing points. So let's go from this vanishing point through here forward, through that other corner, and through the back bottom. And I'm not really sure how long, so I'm just making these lines a little extra long. And now we got to find that front face, which is over here. And so those two lines projected forward, and we got to go up to here. So that's that face. And this one up through here. And if I look, I could see my cone of vision. It looks like this one cube's coming a little bit out, but this is actually well within there, so we're good. And then I got to connect those last pieces over here. And again, I'm a little bit off, but I'm going to just kind of average out between the two. And so let's turn this way down. And we'll trace out our cube again in a slightly darker yellow. Let's go kind of ochre. So I'm going to trace this out. And when you're drawing these, I'm drawing all the way to the vanishing point because these lines snap that way. But if you kind of know where your object is, you don't have to draw the lines all the way to the vanishing point. You can stop. You can just draw them on the object and then stop. Kind of like what I'm doing right now, but now I'm just tracing. Okay, so I got the outside visible edges, and then now I'm going to thin this way down and do my inside. And I'm kind of adjusting this a little bit because I think I was off. All right, so this one is good. The whole back side's going to be kind of covered up, but let's go ahead and still make this into the cylinder. So first step, let's make this a little bit lighter. We're going to find the center of this side, up and down. Oops. This one I think I got to go back to my vanishing point. Zoom in. Should have worked in higher resolution, sorry about that. So that's that line. Okay, again, dividing this up into thirds. This up into thirds. And again, to save time, I am going to just drop this in because I've done this a bajillion times. So once I kind of map this out, if I've done all my due diligence on the I should be able to find an ellipse that fits in here. And that axis, which you see that red, this should fit in there. And it is not quite right. Sorry, I'm just trying to make this work. I think my front square is a little too short for some reason. I transferred something up a little bit. So I'm gonna come out both the sides. So I'm gonna keep the height the right size, but you notice I'm popping out a little bit on the sides, and I'll redraw that in there. I'll draw that in red just so it looks a little more obvious. All right, and then I'm going to go back to the back side. This one should be a little more open. And the orientation should be the same, so. All right, and then the last part I got to do is tangent the edges here. And I'm going to actually redraw the circles on the this new layer because I'm going to erase the box. I'm not going to erase it, I'm just going to turn it way down. So all right. All right, like I said, I could do more, but this is going pretty long. So let's do some quick shadows here. So I'm going to use my my cheater technique, I call it, but it's the parallel light source parallel to the picture plane. So first I got to decide what direction I'm going to go. And if I go in this direction, my shadow of my cube is going to fall on my cylinder, and that gets pretty hard. So I'm going to do it the other way. I'm going to go in this direction. So first I'm going to draw some parallel lines, and then I'm going to use my 30-60 triangle again, and pick the, let's see, this shortest direction, which is this one. So now I'm going to, the 30, depends on which way you're going from, but 30 on the top and 60 on the bottom here. And 1, 2, 3, and do we need the fourth? No. Boom. All right, and if you remember, when you do this, now I could just connect these points, this point to this point, but it also should go to that same vanishing point, which is the gray one, and you can see this is pretty much correct, so I'll do that. And then same over here, this point represents this guy, and over here this one went down to here, and these two are connected up here, so these two are connected down here. And again, if I want to double check this, it should go all the way to the gray vanishing point, and it does exactly so. Now once I get to here, you can see I'm actually going behind the box, so all I really need is up to here. And so that's my first shadow. So this, oh, I did this on the wrong layer, but let's do this on a new layer, and let's pick light blue for our shadows. No, like gray blue. So I'm going to map this out just one more time so I can just fill it. Okay, so if I did that right, I should be able to, where's my fill bucket? There we go. All right, now I'm going to do the cylinder also, because that one's a little tricky. And the way I like to think about it is do the shadow from the box behind it first, and let's see which, that's the cylinder. I'll find the box. I think it's this one. Here we go. I'm going to turn this back up a little bit. And then we're going to draw the shadow in there. So, all right, I got my, so I got the same angle, I'm going to go same corners. go down from that corner, down from that corner, and then way over in the back, down from that corner. These are just the upper corners. Upper corners go down, and the bottom corners go horizontal. So that one is here, so horizontal cross. So there's my first point. This one relates to here, so that's my second point. Those are connected, so that's going to be connected. This is the bottom edge. So basically I got to draw a new ellipse in that little triangle. So let's do the rest of this here. So got to go off, off, across, over. So there's a little, it's like a distorted version of the other square. I'd use my ellipse template, but it's so squishy. I think it's going to be easier just to map this out. So if I kind of look at what I've got over there as far as my ellipse, I'm going to draw a new ellipse in here. And and this is a little scrunchy, like I said. This is going to be another one over here. And then I got to draw a tangent line. And let's do this also on a new layer. Tangent to these two, and then just fill in. So I got to go back and trace this. The parts that are the outside part. The inside of this is going to be all in the shadow. So this is the outside. And notice it touches right there at the bottom, and then it goes around a little bit more. So that's kind of important, that little tiny piece over to there. And then this should be straight across, following that. And I should be able to paint bucket in there as well. Cross your fingers, good. And that looks pretty funky, but again, we're so pixelated. So now I gotta go back. I think this is our turn that way down. Okay, and then again, you can see that actually this whole back half of it is going to be covered up by the box, so maybe I should lighten that up. So I'm going to get rid of this whole chunk of this. I'm going to leave it there just so you can see, but I'll lighten it up with an eraser. Let's just pretend this first box is made out of glass so I can see through it a little bit. All right, and then the cone, as we said, we use the same angle. And here, this is one of those cases where if you look at this angle, it's barely different from the actual side of the cone. So this is going to be a very small, tiny little shadow poking out, but let's draw it in. So I got my line here. I'm going to draw the direction from the axis. I'm going to draw the bottom straight out from the center of my square in the bottom, or the axis where it meets the ground plane. And I get this little point right here, and then I'm going to tangent to the circle and tangent to the circle, and that's the tiniest little piece of the shadow. And guess what? It's behind the box, so I'm not going to see it also. So I think I'll stop there. We need to add the last few boxes. This one here will be back here somewhere, and this one here will be up on top of this. And I'll cut out here, and good luck. Let me know if there's any questions. Bye.